Hello all, Alison here. Welcome back to Words and Pictures for a few minutes of fun, coming at you on a Friday evening. My Friday evening. It could be any time for you. I'm experimenting with changing when I post these videos. So rather than my Saturday morning, it's going to come my Friday evening. So it will be there, ready for you for the whole weekend to play. YouTube has changed its algorithm. I'm just exploring what happens if this goes out so that the first couple of hours are at a different time frame. I'm having a few minutes of fun with some stencils today. We've played with stencils a lot because they're an amazing craft tool. We've done them with sprays, we've done them with watercolors. I'm playing again with watercolors today, partly because I want some springtime backgrounds and I want to play with that. I've got a different brush to experiment with. I found it somewhere in my stash. I've no idea where it came from, I'm afraid. Picked it up somewhere along the lines. But I've also got the Distress Watercolor Pencils on the mat, and we might have a little play with those. But the first thing I'm going to do is just get some colour down through this stencil. So I'm going to explore with this brush and see what I get. I've got Art to Basic watercolour paints here on the mat. So when you're spraying, you can get different levels of softness to the look of your stencil. If you spray from very close up, ink will sort of spread underneath the stencil and cause it to be very soft and loose. If you spray from further away, you get a nice kind of detailed image. If you work with blenders, ink blenders and ink pads, then obviously you can keep a very precise look. When you work with the watercolors, you are going to get a looseness to it, and that's what I want. I don't want a perfect stenciled image, and I'm not going to get it. So this is going to be a lovely loose kind of softness. Love that. Might see if I can get a print on the other side. This is a Canson watercolor pad, and I've got various bits of card just hanging around. Might give it, it's going to be a very soft one if so. But let's do a little flip, and if I've got some kitchen towel or a rag nearby, I can press down, get myself something there. So flipping will get you the reverse. And even though I might only use a little bit of that, it's still worth having. So always have some spare stuff around. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to push what's here through and get myself a much paler version. So just what's on the brush and what's left on there is going to give me more of a homogeneous colour. I deliberately was switching colour on those. That's a really pretty colour though, isn't it? Just the mix of those colours. And then let's see, will it fit down here? Yes, it will. No, it won't. Eesh. Well, it would if I tore this off. It's those rings that are getting in the way. I love the Canson paper. It's really good as a sort of multi-purpose playing paper. It's Canson XL. Let's have a look. Watercolor. There we go. That one. Let's see. So if I put this down here now, yes, it's not sticking up. And then I'm going to take, not the same, but maybe some similar colours. So when you rub distress pencils over a stencil, the chances are you'll hit the stencil rather than the paper underneath. If you go with the point, you're going to get certain amounts in there, but it's not going to be, but you can probably see, I hope, that as I rub this over the stencil, I'm getting lots of pigment coming off the pencil onto the stencil, which at the moment is what I'm interested in. So that was broken china. I think that's twisted citron. Let's have some peeled paint because I do love my peeled paint. And maybe a bit of that up there. So as you can see, it's not really going through to the stencil itself. Maybe a bit of tumbled glass. Nice gentle blue down at the bottom here. But then what I'm going to do, and again, it's going to depend how much water you allow into the mix. I'm going to have the brush a little bit dry. It's got some liquid, but not too much. And then I'm just going to brush that pigment through from the stencil onto the paper. So that's creating colour underneath. So the top of this brush is quite flat. It's a bit like, I don't know, can anybody go as far back as the 80s with me? Stenciling on your walls was a huge thing in the 80s. I did beautiful wisteria patterns all around the top of our bathroom. And the stencil brushes were really flat. Now, what I like about this is you get this kind of edging where bits of pencil are really quite strong, and then other places where it's less obvious. Right, I'm thinking I want to add a bit more detail to this one. I love the colour of it. I absolutely love the colour of it. Let's see if I can lie it down over the top. Get myself that. And then what I can do is, again, I can use the same watercolour colours I was using. If I get myself some of that on the mat. Or you can do the same thing with your watercolour pencil. Get it a little bit wet. Get some ink on the mat. And then I'm going to switch to using a sponge to just add a bit of variation of colour in places here. So picking up that paint or that Distress Watercolor Pencil paint and just adding a little bit of detail through there. So 3 gorgeous backgrounds. When I cut these out to make tags, I'm going to love them. I quite like the idea of a bit more detail in a few places here as well, particularly with some blue maybe. So let's see, let's lie it over the top again. And again, I just want to hit it with a bit of, let's go with the, quite enjoying the broken china today. It was one of my very first distress colours, and whenever I come back to it, I do find that I'm quite happy to see it. So I'm just gonna again hit a few of those to just create a bit of variation through there. I love all 3 of those. Now I'm gonna do a direct comparison. This is the very cheap watercolor paper from Action, and so that you can see a really direct comparison, let's go straight on in the same way I did with the very first one with some of this watercolor paint, because my guess is it is gonna do something different underneath. The birds are really singing so loudly at the moment. It's glorious to have them going out there. You may or may not be able to hear. Let's have a look at that compared to here. Now I can't necessarily say it's an utterly direct comparison, because a different amount of water, different amount of paint. I think I was a bit wetter in my application there. Oh, I could have flipped that, but I didn't. Never mind. Let's do, oh, I do love this one. Let's do a couple with this, because it just makes me happy. So let's go with, again, I'm going to keep it quite loose. If you feel nervous about your stencils moving, by all means, you can tape it down. I'm going to go with quite strong in the center, add a little bit of water, clean off the brush, and just let it spread out to the edge. So that's the green. I'm going to go with this rather beautiful oceany blue into here. And again, I don't mind if it's kind of spreading outwards. That's all good. Gonna go with, what should we have as our third colour? Oh, maybe one of these greys. It's a beautiful dark olive colour that I do love. And let's let that spread out. So again, this is going to be loose, and I'm working with the paper that I don't necessarily know is going to cooperate. So I'm mixing those 2 colours up so that that's going to be what goes back in here. Clean off the brush a little bit, spread that out towards the edge. Right, so now I want the blue and the olive grey. Oh, I'm going to like this colour. Yeah, I do like that colour. I want it a bit more intense in the middle. There it is. Spread it out. And then even though they're not meeting, I am going to pretend they're meeting. So I'm going to use that green. Clean off and a bit of the grey. Create myself a grey green down in this corner. There it is. That grey's gone quite pale, so I'm just going to add another layer. It's all good. A little bit lighter. And then let's just see how much of a... That's interesting. The green has also disappeared. So this, I'm definitely going to blame the paper, because that colour shouldn't vanish like that. We'll try one of these on the Canson in a minute. I don't care. I love it. Whatever. Either way. That'll do me. That was a background. You could do it direct onto a journal page if you wanted. Where's my Canson? Are you Canson? Can't tell anymore what's Canson and what isn't. You're definitely Canson because you're still in the pad. I can see your Canson. Good. Might wipe that up so I can do my mixing afresh. And again, I'm going to try and do something basically the same, but on this different paper. Oh dear, that was still... Well, let's not worry, shall we? It's not as if we're creating something perfect and neat, because I don't like perfect and neat. I'll maybe do it in the other direction for this one, so that I've got one going each way. Let's pop that there. Where's my brush gone? Right, so I need a new piece of paper to wipe things off, on, off, on, off, on. Clean that a little bit. Right, let's go with the green to start with then. And I'm just going to start with pretty much neat paint in the middle. Just wash that off a little bit. Spread it out into the top. Let that pigment travel, even though it's got to cross lines to do it. Okay, in with the blue. That's this one, isn't it? I really must get these Art to Basic paints properly labelled in the tin. And as I was mentioning on Wednesday, in Watercolour Wednesday, I need to add in some others that I've bought since. So I'll ask the same question. If you're interested in seeing that process happen, let me know in the comments. And when I try to rebuild my Art to Basic palette and add in new colours and work out which order I want them in, I'm very happy to try and share some of that process with you on here. It might be quite a long process, so I might not share all of it. Was that the blue? So I can just mix green and blue there, can't I? Yeah, I think so. Let's go up through there. So now blue and grey. I adore this olive grey. It just makes me happy as a colour. And possibly even happier when you start mixing it with the blue. And then finally some green and the olive grey. So this is sort of somewhere between colour mixing and stenciling and all those kinds of things. But it's playtime, it's having fun. Get a little bit more of that colour through there. And maybe a little bit more of that colour through there. It sort of, I watered it down a bit. Let's lift up, see what we've got. Ooh, that's a beauty. And yeah, it has held its shape a little better on that paper. I think this Canson watercolour paper just responds a little bit better to the paint in terms of grabbing hold of it. Whereas that one, it really is quite fluid and moves around. Neither of them are wrong. They're both great backgrounds. Let's just do maybe a couple more. I've got spaces, so I'm going to fill them up. Let's tear you off again, because otherwise I know I'm not going to be able to use that bit when I get there. Third one. So let's maybe go with one more stencil. What would we like? Maybe we'd like some words. I do love this one as well. Right, let's go. Let's start with maybe a wash of watercolour. So there is water and pigment, a little bit of pigment. Let's get a bit more pigment on the brush. So that's now nice and wet. And then what I'm going to explore with this time is adding my Distress Watercolor Pencils. So this time they're hitting water when it goes in between. So they are finding a way onto the paper more immediately. It won't be so possible to flip with this unless you don't mind your words being backwards. If you're using a word or figure stencil, when you flip, obviously those words end up going in the other direction, which may or may not make you happy. Maybe we'll have it. No, I don't want peacock feathers. Not in the mood for peacock feathers. Let's see. We did use a bit of twisted citron just now, didn't we? So maybe we'll go with a bit of twisted citron. So again, pigment is hitting the stencil, but because there's water already underneath on the paper, that pigment is making its way onto the paper in a different kind of way than when we used it dry. And I think that could be quite interesting. Grand. Let's pick that up. Ooh, yes. Lots of sort of variation in how that colour is hitting. I like that quite a lot. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to light down again. This time, rather than a wet brush, I think what I might do is just use some kitchen towel, which is very slightly moist. It's not completely dry kitchen towel, to just knock that colour through onto the paper. Oops. And see what we get. Very loose, but again, not unattractive. Just hints of the lettering. I love that one though. Okay, one more little play. Got one more gap. Might as well go with this. So this time I'm going to come on with the pencils dry again. Although the pencils themselves are now a little bit moist. So again, it's going to do something different. Right at the beginning when I started, the pigment on the pencil nib was completely dry. Now there's a bit of moisture involved. So the pigment is coming off the pencil in a different way. These pencils are pure pigment, so that's just paper wrapped around pure pigment. There's no, you're getting solid watercolor pigment when you buy these pencils, so they will last you a long time. Okay, let's, what am I after? Faded jeans. Is faded jeans here? Oh, that's maybe what my brain is wanting to play with. So then again for this, because there's lots of loose particles of pigment on there, I'm going to take testing it against my cheek to see how wet the brush is. Going to take a very slightly moist brush, and if I feel like it's too moist, I'm going to rub it off on the paper towel. And again, I'm just knocking that pigment through onto the paper, brushing it inwards, brushing it downwards. That's nice. I can see it's got quite a lot of moisture underneath, but that's very cool. I like that. And then there's quite a lot going on here. Where's the bit of paper that I flipped onto earlier? Ha ha ha. Is it you? No, you're blank. Was it the back of something? Is it the back of this one? Yeah, there it is. Okay, so let's give this a little spritz, and you'll see what I mean about it now going backwards, but I'm not sure I mind altogether. Not sure I altogether mind, because as I say, if this is a background, what you want are just those sort of subliminal hints of lettering. You don't really want to be able to read it necessarily. It might just be quite a nice grungy effect if there's an oh, that'll be a yes, thank you. Grand, love that. Now got just one more space here which I feel like I want to use. Do we do another of you? We'll do another of you, or we'll do another of you, look, because that'll just fit on the edge there. And what'll it be? Go through with a bit of watercolour. Into there. Come in with a bit of pencil. So you can see that's just adding pigment to start with, and I am going to need some moisture to activate it, and then hopefully it'll stay, sorry, cleaning off the brush again, approximately within its lines, so that just loosens that up. Let's go with maybe Twisted Citron next, again adding some colour. Then I'm going to use the moisture to spread it to the edges. I think we'll come back in with some watercolour, maybe the olive grey again, because I think that's going to be nice against that Twisted Citron green. Kind of want to come back with some blue, grey blue, and maybe some of this Twisted Citron. So here I'm going to mix Twisted Citron with my much loved olive grey. Let's get myself something a bit acidy at the bottom there. Nice. Let's lift up, see what we've got. Very good, very good. So as you can see, seriously, a bit of stencil playtime, experimenting with different levels of moisture, experimenting with different papers, and I end up with backgrounds galore that I can trim into tags, which I will do for the close-up. You'll see these cut into sections, ready to play. I hope you've enjoyed seeing that little bit of stencily playtime. Thank you as always for your company. It wouldn't be the same without you. So do leave any comments or questions you've got. I will leave a list of what I've been using today in the description below. If you've enjoyed this, do give me a thumbs up. And do subscribe if you haven't already. We'll see how this goes with letting this come out live to you. Let this come out to you on a Friday evening as opposed to the Saturday morning, and this might become the regular thing, in which case it'll be the Wednesday, either Watercolour Wednesdays or tag time. It'll be Friday for a few minutes of fun, which kind of makes sense, doesn't it? A few minutes of fun should be on a Friday. And then there'll probably be a short on a Monday, and I'll leave you in peace for the weekend to play with the ideas from the week. Thanks so much for your company, and happy crafting all.